Okay, we're going to be working through a hatha style class today, specifically targeted for runners, but really amazing for anybody that does do exercise or anybody looking to just do some nice stretches working on the legs. So hatha style, if you haven't practiced before, it's more about static movements rather than the flow that we get from our vinyasa. So we're not going to be thinking so much about the sequence, we're really going to be working within that pose and identifying all of those little areas of our body that's moving and working to a correct alignment, working to our bodies, how our bodies like to work and within our body's limits. Okay, so if you want to do the whole thing, or you pick up a few things that work for you and work them into your day after your run, or however you like to stretch. So everybody come down to the ground. If you do have a strap or a scarf or a belt, that could be really helpful for you because we're going to do a hamstring stretch, and if you feel like your leg's a bit far away, it's just going to mean that you don't have to overstretch. So all the way down to the ground. Legs out long, hands away from the body, palms facing up. Let those feet fall out to the side, closing down the eyes. Allowing the whole of your body to feel really heavy here, especially the lower half. Feeling that belly rise and fall. Keep breathing here. On every inhale, feel your belly rise higher. And every exhale, feel your body sinking further into the ground, dispersing any areas of tension that you can feel. Coming into our first stretch, we're going to come into a reclined pigeon pose. So bend up both of your knees. Take your right leg so it's over your left. The right ankle is to the outside of the left thigh and your right knee is drawing away from your face. Now this is going to be a great stretch for the outer hip. Amazing, because a lot of us do get tight hips when we're running. Now identify whether this is enough of a stretch for you, or you want to pick off the left foot off of the ground, grabbing hold of the hamstring or the shin, and drawing that left knee closer to the chest. Flexing the right foot and still drawing that right knee away from your face. Now identify whether your shoulders are still on the ground, because we want a hole from the crown of the head all the way down to the tailbone. We want that nice and flat on the ground. So if you do feel like your shoulder picking up a bit, just come out of the stretch a little bit. Still breathing here. Try to keep your breaths calm and even throughout. See if you can come deeper into the stretch with every exhale, but know that it's absolutely not necessary. Feeling that deep stretch down the outside of that right hip. Working on to the other side now, slowly release. Right foot planted down, left foot up and over. Flexing the left foot, left ankle to the outside of that right thigh. Again, assess here whether this is going to be enough of a stretch for you for that outer hip. Left knee drawing away from the face. And absolutely go for it. Pick up this right foot, grabbing hold of the hamstring in front of the shin, keeping those shoulders on the ground, the tailbone on the floor. And start to draw that right knee into your chest. See if you can find any space in the pose. That breath being really powerful here. Final inhale. Exhale, release. Now this is where the strap could be handy. We're coming into a hamstring stretch. Whether you want to keep the other leg bent or you take the leg long. In my case, I'm going to take my left leg long. I'm taking the right foot up to the sky, keeping a slight bend in the knee, flexing the right toe. Grabbing hold of whatever feels comfortable, remembering shoulders onto the ground. So if you want to put a strap around the foot or the ankle, absolutely do so. Really feel like you're pulling these shoulders into the ground, away from that leg. That's also in turn going to pull the leg closer to you. The hamstrings and quads work in conjunction with one another, so really important to keep nice loose hamstrings. Keeping that right foot flexed. If you do have your left leg long, you can always put your left hand onto your left leg just to make sure that you're still grounding the whole of that leg into the floor. Final inhale. Exhale, slowly release, switching over to the other side. So right leg long or bent, the left leg up to the sky, flexing the toes, keeping a slight bend in that knee. Assessing where you're going to grab hold onto, whether you want that strap. And driving those shoulders into the ground. Now both sides can feel completely different because we do have a more dominant side and a side that tends to be a little bit tighter. The shaking of the leg is absolutely okay. I'm sure a lot of you are experiencing it. It just means the nerves are twitching, the muscles are firing. But by all means, come out of it and come back into it when you feel ready. Final inhale. Exhale, slowly release all the way down. Coming into a really big stretch, fingers and toes as far away from one another as possible. Bending up the knees, rolling over to one side, and slowly pushing yourself all the way up. Coming into our all fours. Coming into some cat-cow, so make sure you've got your wrist and your shoulders in line, knees and hips in line. That's bone on bone, so that's the strongest point possible for us to be bearing any weight. Fingers spread nice and widely. Big inhale, drop that pelvis, so you're tipping your pelvis forward, gaze going up, drawing the shoulder blades together. Exhale, cat. Really squeeze the belly button to the spine, tuck the chin to the chest. Draw that spine all the way up to the sky, big dome. Inhale, cow, drop the pelvis, gaze up. Exhale, cat. Push the mat away with the hands. Inhale, cow, last time. Exhale, cat. Coming back to neutral, coming into a plantar stretch now, so stretching out our toes and our foot arches, taking our knees together and our feet together, tucking the toes under, starting to walk our hands back to take the weight back so that we're fully sitting onto our heels. Now at this point you might just want to make sure that all of your toes are untucked, they're not tucked under any of the other toes, so you've got them nice and spread widely. And just chill out here. This is such an amazing stretch. At first it might not feel like much, and then the heat starts to build and you're going to really have to use that breath to calm you down, to take you to another place so that you can stay in this stretch. Close down the eyes if that's going to help you, by all means. Final breath here. Exhale, slowly walk those hands forward, untuck those toes. Now you might just want to gently just bash them onto the ground, just get that blood flowing again. Whenever we restrict blood flow from an area, as soon as that blood gets a chance to flow back, it completely regenerates. So it's really great for our organs, especially when we're twisting in yoga, but with the toes tucked as well. This time we're stretching out the fronts of our feet, so we're untucking our toes, taking that weight back, taking that hands back, and starting to take the knees off. Now you can do it with your hands off the ground or supported with your hands. Just make sure that your feet are completely straight, so the fronts of the feet are completely on the ground. Tends to be, in my case, it might be with you as well, that my toes start to tuck in and my heels start to drop out. So just make sure that they're in a neutral position. So you're really rolling through the complete fronts of the feet rather than to the side. Now this could feel like a real strain for a lot of people, I know it does for me. So don't go too fast into it, just assess where you are and come out of it whenever you need to and come back into it. It's not a stretch that we tend to do often, so it will probably bring up some sensations that you aren't used to. Wherever you are, last inhale, exhale, slowly come all the way forward, just wiggling those feet if you need to. Coming into our low lunge, taking this right foot, now you can absolutely bring your foot forward with a bit of a helping hand, knee above ankle, again strongest point, bone on bone. Not a problem necessarily if your knee comes over the ankle, just means you're putting a lot more pressure on the quads. So we like to bone on bone, so then you can really focus on the hip flexor on the other side, stretching, and this hamstring and the inner thigh. So take that left leg, take it back if you can, so you get more of a stretch through this left hip flexor. And again, hands if you do have blocks, or you've got a chair in front of you, or resting onto this front thigh, just so that you can keep nice and open in this chest. So dropping through this left hip flexor, sagging the left hip heavier to the ground. When we do those repetitive exercises such as running or cycling, and our hip flexors are always short, especially if you're working at a desk as well, and the hip flexors are always short, the glutes are weakened, this kind of stretch is amazing for us, just for our daily lives, but especially for people that are doing those repetitive exercises. Keep exhaling and sinking that left hip flexor down. Now we're going to come into our lizard lunge, so we're taking our right hand inside our right leg. Our right foot is wiggling out further to the outside of the right side of the mat. Both hands planted. Think about this right knee and the right bicep hugging in towards one another. If you want a deeper stretch, then you can tuck the toes and take the knee off by all means. You can even come down to your forearms. Just make sure though that knee, that right knee and bicep are hugging in towards one another at all times. So still stretching that left hip flexor, but now moving on to stretching even more of that inner thigh, that inner groin. The inner thigh and inner groin again is an area that we don't tend to stretch, and is really important to the healthy internal and external rotation of our hips, making sure we have neutral hips. Very important when running, walking, anything really, sitting. Keep driving the mat away. Try to keep nice and bright through that upper body rather than sinking down. Now you can either stay here or come to the outside edge of that right foot, dropping that right knee outside. Really pushing this weight through the left hand, picking up the right hand, spinning it round. Now either you grab hold of this right leg or you just work towards picking it up, and that's going to activate this hamstring, which is still great anyway. If you can grab hold of this leg, start to pull that heel towards the bum cheek. This is going to be a really deep quad stretcher, so just be be careful, go slowly. Keeping this right shoulder away from your face so you can keep nice and open in the chest. Spinning the left rib cage under and round to the right. Taking that gaze over the right shoulder if you've got the space. Continuing to drive that energy through the left hand. Exhale, fully release. Switching over to the other side, taking this right foot straight back. Bringing the left foot forward again, give it a helping hand if needed. Knee over ankle. Hands either side of that left leg to start with, or resting on top. Sagging down this right hip flexor. Keeping that chest nice and open. Remembering to breathe. Feeling that right hip sink further and further into the ground as our hips start to warm up. Taking that left foot further to the left side of the mat, both hands inside that left leg. Thinking about the left knee and the left bicep hugging in towards one another. Assess where you want to go into a deeper stretch or not, whether you want to come down to your forearms. Wherever you are, keep driving the energy through the mat so you can keep nice and lifted, nice and buoyant. Feel that stretch now through the inner left groin. Still stretching through that right hip flexor. And again, decide whether you're going to stay here or come into that corkscrew. So you come to the outside edge of that left foot, knee drops out to the left, keeping this right hand planted, left hand up and over, pick up this right leg, see if you can grab it, if not, just work towards it, activating that hamstring. If you do manage to catch it, start to pull it towards your bum, keeping this chest nice and open, continuing to drive the energy through that right hand. Right rib cage spins round to the left. Exhale super slowly all the way down. Hands to the front. Now we're coming into our yogic squat. This could be too far. If it is too far, come back into your child's pose and stretch out your glutes and your lower back. If not, we're coming into a yogic squat. So we're keeping our left foot where it is, toes slightly facing out. Bringing our right foot all the way to the top of the mat. They're about just over hips width apart, toes slightly facing out. And we're going to be fully sinking down here. If you do have blocks, you can sit on one of your blocks if that's going to make this pose more accessible. But if your heels are off of the ground, just come into your child's pose. So we're all the way down. We're driving our elbows into the insides of our knees, hands into our chest like so. Keeping our chest nice and lifted, whilst we're sinking our tailbone and pulling our chest up, so we're almost starting to tilt this way, thinking about the crown of the head driving up. Amazing to stretch the ankles and the inner groin. Drawing those shoulder blades towards one another. If you're in your child's pose, really think about stretching the fingers forward, sinking the hips further down to the heels. If you're in your squat, try to calm that breath so you can find some stillness here. Final inhale. Exhale, fully release down to the ground. If you're in your squat, just push your hands into the ground so you can come back into your all fours. Child's pose, stay where you are. We're coming to join you. Decide whether you want your knees together, your toes together, or your toes together and your knees wide. Sink the forehead down, sink the hips back to the heels. Allow those arms to fully soften, fully relax down. Feeling that nice stretch through the whole of that back. Feeling your belly rise into the sides and back of the ribs. Really slowly start to walk the hands forward till we're coming all the way down to our bellies. Stretching out through that chest now to help our posture in general, but amazing when we're running to keep a nice bright open chest. Taking the hands out into cactus arms, so we've got our elbows and our shoulders in line, and then we've got our elbows and our hands in line, so we're at a 90 degrees angle. Now this might be enough for some people, or we can come into a further stretch, so we'll take our right fingertips to the ground, our right foot off of the ground. We're taking our right foot up and over to the left side and rolling onto our left ear. So you're going to feel a nice deep stretch to the whole of the front side of that left chest and the arm. Just making sure that you do still have that shoulder and elbow in line with one another. The palm is flat down on that left side. Now your right foot may be able to touch the ground behind you, or it might just be hanging around in the sky, and that's absolutely fine as long as you're feeling comfortable. Breathing here. Feeling that leg pull you deeper into the stretch. Ever so slowly and gently pushing those right fingertips into the ground. If you feel like you can, spin a little bit further. Final inhale here. Exhale slowly all the way back down to your belly, switching over to the other side. Make sure elbow and shoulder in line, elbow and hand are in line, tippy fingers of the left hand, pick up the left foot, all the way up and over to the right ear onto the ground. Again, both sides could feel really, really different, so don't rush into this pose, just allow yourself to sink in. Final inhale here. Exhale slowly all the way down. We're rolling all the way over to our backs now. And find a wall if you've got a wall near you, or you can just put your legs up in the sky. If you've got a wall near you, shuffle your bum towards the wall and legs all the way up. Relaxing down. And just allowing all of that lactic acid to fall back towards your body, draining away from those legs. Finding stillness in this pose. Feeling that belly soft, rising and falling. You can always put one hand on your heart and one hand on your chest. just to really connect with the breath. Feeling the chest and belly rise on the inhale and falling again on that exhale. Final inhale here. Exhale, slowly legs down, back away from the wall. Coming all the way down, lying onto our backs. Coming into our final pose, our Shavasana, so if you feel like you need to take any extra movements, please do so. If not, legs as wide as the mat, feet falling out to the side, arms away from the body, palms facing up. Closing down the eyes. Feeling that body grow heavy again, exactly as the start. Tension behind the eyes and the jaw. Really exhale every single inch of it. Allowing the shoulders to sink further away from the face into the mat. And your feet to fall further out to the side. If you've got more time that you can take in your Shavasana, please do. If not, start to bring some movement back into your body, wiggling the fingers and toes. Taking that movement bigger. Coming to a really big stretch, fingers and toes away from one another. Bending up your knees, rolling it over to one side, using that bicep as a pillow. Pushing yourself all the way up to seated. Head being the last thing to come up. Eyes still closed. Hands resting onto your thighs, palms facing up. Take some nice deep breaths here before you come to the end of your practice. Thank you very much for joining today. And I hope that those stretches have given you a little bit of thought into your routine around your running or whatever exercise you do. Thank you very much.